Hey guys, Joe Miles here with Osseo Gear. This is the Mission Whitetail Podcast. We're going to be doing a deep dive into what it truly takes to kill these mature bucks. We're going to step outside the box and look at the why for gear, tactics, training, and more importantly, the mindset from over 35 years of chasing these magnificent animals all over North America. Thank you for following along and welcome to Mission Whitetail.
All right, guys, episode 60, believe it or not, in our new studio here in South Carolina. Got JJ Dukart on the line, the head man for Illusion Game Call Systems, the Deer Society, Phase. What else, JJ? Y'all have got some more products up there, I know.
Yeah, so it's kind of a big umbrella with different categories of products. So we've always been known for our calling systems with Illusion, so the extinguisher, the black rack, scent control. Another good strong category for us with the phase system. We got quite a few items in there. New to us is food plots, so we've been doing some seed and fertilizer systems. And then more recently, actually, there's a brand called Mountain Mike's Reproductions. That will now be under the Illusion umbrella as more of the DIY taxidermy, so deer taxidermy, turkey taxidermy, mounting fans, antlers on skulls, some pretty cool stuff. So we're doing a lot of revamp, some product development, and things like that. So that's the Illusion side where we actually make products, develop products, educate on how they work in the field, teach people how to be successful, and then the Deer Society is more of that entertainment and education to kind of support not only those products, but just general hunting strategies as a whole. So we also have a lot of partners with the Deer Society, including Osseo, a lot of different brands, from bow companies to trail cameras. And it's just really a entertainment / education platform. Hunt breakdowns are kind of the meat and potatoes of that whole that whole arm of the company. And then we also have a podcast, which we don't do quite a bit. We're not as consistent as you, but podcast. We got a new vlog. I don't know if you saw the first vlog.
I did, man. That's awesome. You know, that's really cool how you're introducing people to the shop. You know, I was up there not too long ago, and it's impressive. I mean, I think your dad and I and you met probably back in the Matthews Dominant Bucks days. Back when the Illusion systems were doing quite a bit of the infomercial stuff on TV, and you guys were really getting going. But give us a little bit of history there. I mean, guys, so you're tuning in today. What would the point of this podcast? We're going to dive into a bunch of scent control. Does it actually work? What are the best practices? JJ, has got some science behind all this, and he and I talked off air, I think Monday or Tuesday, and kind of went through it, and it's pretty fascinating stuff. But I think for guys, a lot of guys listen to this from a business perspective, watching Osseo grow and that sort of stuff, and then also, you guys going from, I don't want to put words in your mouth here. I want you to go wild here, but your dad kind of started in the goose or duck waterfowl calling systems, and then transitioned over maybe. But give us some history and kind of how you guys have morphed, because, dude, it's impressive. What you guys have built is amazing in the hunting space. And just give everybody, because I'm interested in it too, and just kind of want to refresh of how you guys got to where you are.
Yeah, so it all start, and I told you before the podcast, I'm getting old, Joe. I'm 37 now, so it's but been involved with basically the hunting industry and the company for a long time. I can't even tell you what year it started. So my dad was a waterfowl outfitter back in the day, guiding goose hunting, duck hunting, kind of a side thing on the business of that. But yeah, so he started making goose calls and duck calls and trying to get geese in closer so that his clients could actually be successful and have shots and not be wing shooting, way out there and clipping geese and having bad experiences. So started out in the waterfowl industry where he was making, again, goose calls, and it just expanded from there. Speckle belly, teal diver calls, snow calls, and really grew in that space. Calling competitions is a big thing in the waterfowl industry. So, if you can be big it's a strange thing. We don't have like deer calling contests, and there are turkey calling contests, but that's big in the waterfowl. So he started there, expanded into turkey, started getting into the friction calls. So slate calls, pot calls, glass calls, box calls, some mouth calls. Just kept kind of expanding, and then once we hit the deer industry, which it's even been quite a while now, when that extinguisher started coming out, he kind of had that mad scientist brain going and was thinking, how can I create a call that doesn't freeze up when it's real cold? So we're up here in Minnesota, and his mind just went into this slide system, breaking reeds free, and he ended up just developing and designing the extinguisher deer call. So that's the progression of how the calling kind of came about. And now it's been more recently just full on whitetail. So Deer Society, illusion with pretty much all deer products. We stopped doing the waterfowl calls, the turkey stuff, and just focused on the biggest category. Obviously, you got to make money to keep the business alive. Sure. So that's one aspect to it. But kind of when I jumped into it more full time after I went to college, deer was where my passion was. So that's kind of where I just kept the eyes focused on deer. I was a sponge, just loved the products, loved deer hunting, kind of didn't take into the waterfowl quite as heavily. So I feel like my presence kind of shifted his efforts, or just efforts as a whole, toward the deer market. So that's where we kind of, and that's where the infomercials, we started creating these infomercials showing just live content where people were calling into, it sounds weird to say infomercial because it was more of an educational production, but just showing people how to call in deer, using these high level professionals like yourself. When we were, at one point when we started working with you guys, I think it was Team 200.
Yep.
At that point when we crossed paths, but basically from that point, and I'm kind of rambling, so stop me if
No,
you want,
I love it.
I think the best way for us to get the word across and also have the best product development and research teams out in the field is to work with the best hunters we could find. So we worked with Gabe Schaffner. He was a legendary whitetail hunter in Illinois, passed away a few years ago from a tree cutting accident, but he was one of the core field testers of the call, and he was doing seminars. We were recording those. We were working with Rod White, just kind of started building this team of just really exceptional deer hunters. Adam Hayes comes into play, Joe Miles, that's where the Team 200 thing, and just started building these great teams. And that's really how the Deer Society was born, as that education part of the Illusion brand, which is more the product. So they kind of tie together pretty well. But Deer Society is a very strong part of that, and that's kind of how that all worked out.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys have just stayed the course, right? I mean, just years and years and years of getting a little bit better every year with content, with hunters, with hunt breakdowns, keeping things fresh, keeping things new. It's just congratulations on the success there, because I can remember the small booth at ATA, years and years and years ago, and man, it really has morphed and grown, and we're very humbled and appreciative to be a small part of what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, we love the partnership with you too, and it's built on trust in the product first, and that's kind of how it all came about. And we're using the Osseo gear; it's working phenomenal, and just building from there. So yeah, it's been quite a ride. I think we're in our 6th building here, 2 of them being garages. So I kind of grew up with the business as a young kid in our garage, and then my parents moved at one point, had a pre-stressed garage below the actual garage that holds cars. And that's where the business was for a while, and then actually moved out of the house, and have just gone to kind of building to building, and now finally, hopefully, we're at the final resting place here for the Illusion company. So
yeah, guys, if you hadn't checked out that vlog that they did, Deer Society, of the breakdown of the office, you need to go check that out. That's really, really a neat progression and well put together. Yeah, Brian and the Almanac guys, man, they do some high-speed stuff. So kudos to them and you guys. So let's morph now into the scent stuff. Probably, I don't know, 6-10 episodes ago, I had 5 or 6 guys. I had Adam Hayes, Don Higgins, Bobby Worthington, Andre DeQuisto, Andy May, myself, we all kind of went through our scent regiment, if you will, and everybody had something a little bit different. I think Don was the one that I won't say is anti scent. He obviously plays the wind and wants to have clean clothes, if you will. He's not a spray guy, not a foam guy. I think he'll shower, and that's about it. Bobby Worthington is really serious about it, and we'll get into that a little bit. But the thing I thought that would be so helpful for me and our listeners is the fact that you own a scent control business, the Phase System, and it's been successful over the years. And if it hadn't been, it wouldn't be around. And I think you are able to take your business mind off of it for a minute and look at the actual practicality of scent control. And we're certainly not going to make this a sales pitch by any stretch of the imagination. But it's really interesting to me that how different everybody is, I guess. That seems to be the real important part of what we want to talk about today, and get into the science behind, does it work, does it not work, right?
Yep.
You and I talked about that. We got some guys that believe in it, some guys that think it's hocus pocus. I want to get into that doe story I told you about, but obviously white-tailed deer, their nose is their number one line of defense. Anything we can do, whether it's simply playing the wind or whether it's using a full-on system, anything we can do to help prevent their number one defense from working for them is something that definitely needs to be looked at. So let's hear take your philosophy on that and kind of go there for a minute and what you have seen that works, if you will.
Yeah, and that's a broad question. I actually got a lot of notes here because I was trying to figure out how to strategize, how to talk about this, because there's so much to it. So guide me where you want me to go.
Yep.
If I start to just veer a little bit, just bring me back. So yeah, when it comes to just deer hunting in general, there's no question that scent control or just trying to be invisible out in the field is an advantage, right? So I know everybody has a different tactic, whether it's just 100% play the wind with no scent control, or going full blown, kind of like what I believe you do, Joe, or what I do myself. So just we get kind of anal about the scent control thing. So, but a lot of people have successes in different ways, so that's great, and it's good to just kind of hear everybody's input. I did listen to the podcast you had about scent control. It's been a little bit ago now. I don't know if it was a month or two ago, but so it's not real fresh in my mind. But I did agree with a lot of the things the guys were saying. When it comes to just scent control, we didn't want to get into the scent control business. It wasn't like, hey, let's find some chemists and go find the best technology and make products to get into it. That's not really how this worked for us. We were focused on the deer calling systems, how to call in deer as part of that. Communicating with animals, they always want to circle down when they're using their nose, they're looking for you. So scent control plays into the communication part very strongly. So we were testing a lot of products. Actually, our Phase system was on the market before we ever became involved with it. We knew the guys that owned it. We used it for a while, along with all kinds of other products, different brands. And I'm a skeptical guy, so it took me 3-4 years to actually believe that I could get away with some of the things I'm getting away with now, and actually believe that the technology works. So that's kind of a cool front end thing to it. It's not like we tried to get into that space.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because absolutely, if you're calling, especially rattling, that buck wants to get downwind of you. That makes a lot of sense.
And basically, the technology, and we talked about it a little bit, it encapsulates odor molecules. So that's how the Phase system works, and it's through all the different products. So it's permanently encapsulating the odor. So whether it's the body wash, shampoo, conditioner, even the laundry that we use, washing our Osseo gear, we're trying to get rid of all that scent. And then when we get to the field, we have a product called the field foam. So if you're sweating, that bacteria starts to grow. That's like the number one thing. Our system is all around. It's called the body odor system because we're trying to remove the human odor element. So we know we can't remove all scents. We're not going to be able to remove, all the rubber scent from our boots and all the different things out there. But if we can remove the human, the danger from the danger element from the factor, that's really what the goal is with what we do. So it's encapsulating the odor. It's also, and it sounds strange that we have a salon quality product, but it's trying to control dander. So moisturizing your skin. Dander is basically a physical scent object where if you think about it, if you had super dry skin and dandruff in your hair and you're walking around, you're basically leaving a physical trail everywhere you go. Or if you're in your tree and that dander's blowing around, it's landing and it's not going to leave the area. It's down on the ground, it's on the leaves, it's getting out there. So basically trying to seal your skin, encapsulate the odor, and moisturize is the biggest thing that we try to do. So we have a system for that. That's the phase system, a 5-pack system. And everything is basically targeting that human odor.
Yeah. So I want to dive in real quick to a practical story, because I have been all over the place with this. I have gone as far as having my own washer and dryer that were simply for hunting clothes, from the dryer, rubber gloves into scent-free totes, to the field, dressed in the field, and completely sprayed down. We'll get into the spray in just a minute, but everything that was out there that you should do, I've done it, and I've still gotten busted, right? And my Illinois story, 5:30 in the morning, I get out of my truck, completely scent-free, boots are in the bed of the truck, pull my boots out, spray them, half bottle of scent killer spray. I don't remember the brand. And where I was hunting in Illinois, there was like a walking path that these old ladies would walk in the afternoons. And I walked down that path, 90-degree angle to the left, walked 75 yards kind of on the edge of a CRP thicket up into my tree. 5:30 in the morning saw some deer, not a really great morning. And about 10 o'clock, 10:30, here comes a big old lead mature doe with triplet fawns. She's bebopping across the old cattle pasture, jumps the fence, smells the walking path. She's used to smelling stuff there, kind of makes a little angle over to where I got off the walking path, and she goes on red alert. And she starts walking down the trail, smelling just about every step that I took all the way to the base of my stand, looks up at me, blows, grabs her 3 fawns, and off she goes. And I was like, this stuff is hocus pocus. It does not work. I mean, I did everything humanly possible that day that you could possibly do, and that big doe figured it out and came right to me. And so I'm like, these sprays, so that was years ago, and I've, continued to do it and continued to test stuff. But talk to us a little bit about the sprays and your experience there, because I'm not the only guy that, this has happened to.
Yeah, and I think there's kind of maybe a misconception how the sprays actually work. If you think about just deer, or if you think about a dog, they can smell better when it's wet. They can, if you're pheasant hunting and it's a little bit moist out, your dog can pick up that bird. They can point. I mean, they can smell so much better when it's moist, when it's wet. Deer's the same way. That's why a lot of big bucks are traveling on these like light rainy days, overcast days, midday during the rut, when they can smell so well. They're trying to pick up scent from a doe. So if we're adding moisture with the spray right before we head to the field, we're basically giving them a more of an advantage to smell us. So, getting real wet, spraying down with different chemicals and stuff, I think, if you have time to let it dry, a lot of the technologies can work really well. Whatever they are, the silvers, the enzymes, this and that. So I do use some sprays. We don't have a spray. The phase line does not have a spray. We actually had one to start, but the technology, deer were picking up on it. Mm-hmm. So it's the chemical that we used to encapsulate our odor. We were spraying it, testing it on the boots and whatnot. Deer were able to pick that up. So we eliminated that from from our product line. We're still, for many years, we've been looking for the spray or the technology that would work for this type of application you're talking about. Haven't found it yet. But basically, yeah, if you're adding moisture to your clothes, to your boots before you walk in, you're giving the deer advantage to smell you, whether it's even enhancing maybe the rubber smell on your boots, or you're just adding that chemical directly to your boots and then you're walking in. So my personal tactic is to keep my boots and my gear, for the most part, as dry as possible. Always keep them outside, air, on the line. The Osseo gear is always outside on the clothesline until I go hunting, throw it in the bin, head out. But my boots are outside as well. So I'll flip them upside down on a stake, let the rain just wash them clean as much as possible. I'll clean them in the summer months to get rid of all the different scents and whatnot. I actually have frozen boots in the freezer quite a bit too. When you get the fresh like rubber smell, it breaks them free and lets you kind of wash it and then scrub them down and stuff. But try to keep it clean. Once you get everything sanitized and clean, it's best to just let Mother Nature, this is my opinion, everybody's got a different strategy, let Mother Nature kind of be your best friend and keep them scent free and dry. Dry is a key factor. So sprays I use on occasion, but it's not something that I use often. And we actually tested quite a few sprays. I bought 12 different brands on the market. We were hunting some areas that were real high traffic doe areas where you'd see 20, 30 does come out of the field at night. To get into the stand, you'd have to walk through the field to get into the tree line. And you could tell which ones the does would, because they always cut your trail in this particular spot. You could tell which ones the does would walk past. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's not. Usually it's not luck when they can walk right through it, or 3-4 does can walk right through it. But then you'd have the technologies where they would hit that trail and stop and then start following you in, which is probably what you experienced. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think there's a couple really good products out there. I'm not going to name any brands, but then a lot of them, yeah, it's a really strong chemical smell, and again, the moisture adding to the gear right before you head to the field, I think is not, again, personal preference, not the way I would go about the best scent control.
Okay, so let's do this, JJ. You've got the science, the understanding, the testing. You've put tons and tons of time into this. What would be, tell us your regiment, like preseason, getting all your gear ready, what you do, and then take us on the day of the hunt. All right, so it's September 15th. I don't know when you guys get going, but let's just say it's September 15th. I've shipped you all your new clothes for the year. You've got your new boots. What do you do to get that gear ready for the season? And then let's get into, say, October 1st is your first day of the year. You're going into hunt.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes to it. Before the season, I like to wash my gear real early and be prepared at least weeks, if not a month or more ahead of time, where the gear's already washed, hanging outside. I do like the idea of having a separate washer and dryer, but I do not at my house. So we just don't use scented detergents the entire year. I tell my wife, we got 3 kids, no scented stuff. Sorry everybody. And then there's actually a process that I have used in the past that if I need to really sanitize the washer dryer, I can go through that. It's like a 3 or 4 load process. So I know some guys, they don't have a choice and the washer and dryer might be contaminated. But first load could be just a bunch of towels with bleach, baking soda, hot water, double rinse, whatever your washer allows. Let that run for a little bit. Pause it when it's full. Just let everything soak. Let that bleach and all those chemicals kind of get through the system, and then just let that wash continue and flush the system. And then a secondary wash will be, again, with these, white towels in this case, and all kinds of socks maybe, but phase system. Mm-hmm. So a scent-free wash. I'm re-washing that same load one more time, putting it through the system, and then it goes through the dryer. Then I feel like the washer is at a point where then I can wash my actual hunting gear. So then I'll do all my Osseo base layers, and again, socks. It's always my first load. That's a phase load. So using the phase laundry detergent, wash everything there. This is load number 3. Then I feel very confident I can wash my outer layer, which is always last. my Osseo outer gear, whatever season it is. Usually I try to wash it all up front before the season, get it all clean and aired out. But a four wash system, try to get that all clean. So now my gear is fairly clean, should be pretty clean at this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and if I can leave it outside as much as possible, obviously I don't want it getting rained on and bugs getting in it or whatever, but I try to leave it out as much as possible. Boots is a different discussion, and again, take me down the right path here, Joe, but if I got a brand new pair of boots, and you can agree with me or not, but sometimes those things absolutely just reek.
Oh, yeah. The rubber, I mean, the rubber smell itself, yeah.
So I've had years where I just wait a year to use the boots, or try to get shed hunting on them and turkey hunting on them, walking through creeks and streams and mud, and just try to wear off that oil and grease smell on those boots. Otherwise, I'll just wait a year. And again, I do throw stuff in the freezer from time to time. Boots, I've done binoculars. I don't know if they approve that, but anything to kind of break free that rubbery smell, I've done that quite a bit. And then wash it with I'll use the body wash or the field foam and just scrub them and then hose that stuff down. Again, air it out. So that's all kind of my gear prep in advance. I can go into more hygiene stuff if you want, or I can just go right into hunting stuff. So you kind of tell me what you want.
Yeah, let's hit both. Let's hit hygiene, and then let's go into, all right, it's the morning of the hunt. This is what I do.
Okay, so, and I got some notes. I'm trying to follow a little bit of what I got over on the side here, but as far as hygiene, all my towels, I actually wash all my clothes with scent-free detergents throughout the whole year, but so everything's clean, but the towels are clean, they're phased out. So when I get out of the shower after washing with a shampoo, body wash, clean towel, going right into a clean base layers, underwear, socks, base layers, maybe a clean pullover system depending on how cold or warm it is, and then heading out to the field with my bin of clean gear, which I put on then out in the field. A couple other things that I think I've talked to quite a few people about at trade shows. They always say, well, what about your breath? That's probably the worst scent that you could have out there. And I say, yeah, there's some things that we definitely do to combat that. And it sounds weird. I feel like a dental hygienist when I started walking through my speech here, my little pitch, but definitely flossing quite a bit during the season, which, maybe a lot of guys are like, well, I don't want to floss. But yeah, flossing's huge, getting all that bacteria out of in between your teeth and your gums. Brushing, I brush multiple times a day. If I'm hunting, right before I'm hunting, I brush one more time. Mouthwash, try to kill all those germs. TheraBreath gum has been actually a really cool product we've been using. I don't know if you've chewed it or not, Joe, but they have a mild mint gum that will actually, once you're done, kind of leave your house, start chewing this gum. The mint fades away, and then that gum, if you're chewing it up in the tree, if you like chewing gum or okay with that, it continues to fight your bad breath a little bit too. So that's actually helped quite a bit.
It's called Thorough Gum.
TheraBreath gum.
TheraBreath.
THERA breath gum.
Okay.
We actually tried to develop a gum a couple years ago along the same lines as that, and just couldn't quite get the formula right. But it's because we just didn't want that mild mint scent in the gum. We were trying to go with more of a natural flavoring, but just couldn't quite get it down. So we're sticking with the TheraBreath gum right now, but it works really good. You got to chew it for a while to get that mint flavor out, mint smell out. Sometimes we just kind of discard the gum before we head to the tree, or if you have a really good wind, if you're playing a really good wind and you don't think anything's going to come down windy anyway, just keep chewing it, because it does fight your bad breath really well. Face masks are always a big thing, pulling that up before the deer come. That helps with the bad breath. A lot of guys ask us, do you use ozone? Because we don't make ozone products. I do use ozone as kind of a dry wash situation. So if my gear, especially if I'm traveling and I don't have a way to wash and dry my stuff with power, little ozone creation, little dispenser deal that you buy on Amazon, throw it in the bin, let it run for a little bit, at least kind of get rid of some of that bacterial odor. So we do use ozone in that way. Mm-hmm. Not so much up in the tree. We rely on removing our own body odor with the phase system, and then our gear, in theory, is extremely clean in most cases because we've been airing it out. it's been outside, we put it in the bin, right back outside. So our gear is almost always outside. Trying to think what else we have. I keep my truck extremely clean. Some of the guys make fun of me because I won't get a truck washed during the season. You know, I don't want all that soap smell. If I do get it cleaned out, it's in the summer, and then I let those odors kind of fade if I get a truck detail or something. I do not have any pets, so I try to keep. I do have kids, which are kind of like pets, but they.
You can say that again, buddy.
No, but trying to keep the inside of my truck and the bed of my truck extremely clean, washing out the bed with, the hose and soap, phase and stuff too. And just really trying to keep any kind of scent away from everything I do at all times, because I just don't want any contamination. So that's kind of the process outside of hunting that I go through.
Yep. And then let's dive right on into, all right, you're waking up. It's going to be a morning and afternoon hunt, and then how you kind of conclude the hunt in the evening to get your gear ready for the next day.
Yep.
Walk us through that.
One more thing is, a lot of times if it's a private property, if I have availability to mow a trail, or if the landowner mows a trail, and I can maybe weed whack or take a loppers and kind of finish off my own trail to my stand, so I'm not brushing up into branches and grass and leaves. That's huge for that ground scent factor. Obviously that's not the case for every hunting situation, but as far as ground scent, if you got clean boots, you're not rubbing up against anything, you're not sweating, creating that bacterial odor on the way in, getting overheated or too hot. That's been extremely effective for controlling the ground scent part of it.
Yep.
As well. So back to a morning hunt. If the weather's correct and my gear's outside, it's not getting rained on or snowed on, my gear is hanging out throughout the night while I'm sleeping. Wake up, have everything ready. I discontinue my coffee drinking during the season, which is unfortunate.
Ooh, boy.
I love coffee.
That'd be a difficult one.
It is difficult. You got to take one for the team. Get up, wash, do the whole process with the body washes, shampoos. Another factor that's really big with us, which sounds weird again, is lotion. So I'm not a lotion guy in the off season, but that really moisturizing your skin, controlling that dander is a huge thing. So lotion actually comes after you dry off outside of the shower, and then it goes to putting on a base layer with a clean set of clothes over top of them.
Now let's back up to the lotion for a minute. Are you doing like in between your toes, your hands, every part of your body you're lotioning up?
Lately, I have been doing more lotion than I used to, and
Okay.
It actually has been pretty effective. And that's something that my dad just hounds me on, like, gotta use the lotion, which, I'm not a lotion guy, but it really is effective. Another guy that's huge on the lotion is Ben Rising. We work with him, Whitetail Edge. He actually brings the lotion to the field, so that's his favorite product to use in the field, is he's lotioning in the field to kind of create that barrier. Again, I think it's not only the odor, the bacteria, but it's the dander, I think, is the overlooked part with the lotion.
Speaking of dander, like when you take your shower, and not to get too granular here, but are you using like some kind of a skin scrubber, like really scrubbing down your skin, or just a firm washcloth or anything like that? Are you getting that serious and dialed about it, or are you just soaping up and coming out the shower and then lotioning everything up?
Yeah, I don't use a washcloth or loofah or anything like that. Just straight up, lather it up on the hands, and you gotta use these rough calluses really grind into your skin.
Yeah.
But that's the process for me.
Gotcha. All right, so then you get out, you shower up. Now, are you dressing there in your house, or are you from shower, you got your towel wrapped around you, you walk outside, and wherever you've got your stuff hanging, that's where you're getting dressed?
So I will put kind of those base layers on in the house. So obviously the boxers, the underwear, the socks, the lightweight socks. I don't want to start sweating, and I like a warm shower. So I don't want to go from warm shower to warm clothes and get real hot. Try to cool down a little bit before you put that on, but just a real light layer. try to like sneak into my closet, which is pretty scent free, put those layers on. And then again, one light layer over top that is now going to come in contact with, well, as I'm walking through the house to get out, that outer layer. It's real, very, very thin pair of pants and thin shirt. Walking out, kind of getting ready for the rest of the morning and getting into my truck. That's the layer that's going to be touching the seat of my truck. So then that layer, even though it's extremely clean by the time I get there, I'm taking that off and then going into my outers out in the field, which before I leave the house, I'm throwing them in the bin, loading up the truck, heading out, putting the outer layers on, and then that base layer cover, we'll call them, it could be jeans at certain times of the year, it could be just a light work pant. That's then discarded, and I use a different one for the next hunt. So even the evening hunt, I'm doing all new base layers, all new secondary layer for the evening hunt if it's a 2-hunt day.
Yep. All right. So then are you when you get to the field, you're putting on your outer layers when you get outside your truck, and you're going into your stand. Now, you're not doing a bunch of mobile public land crazy walks and all that sort of stuff. That's a whole nother animal where you're going to get sweaty no matter what. So then you come out of the tree, you come back to your truck after the morning hunt, and walk us through kind of okay. So yeah, walk us through that. You get back to the truck after the hunt. What's the plan then?
Yeah, and even the process of the morning hunt. If you need layers that need to keep you warm for a long period of time, you don't have to wear all those on the way to the tree. So try to stay cool. So take your jacket off. Maybe you're unzipping those side, what do you call them, Joe? The breathable
heat vents. The
heat vents on the pants. You don't have to go in there fully dressed for the day. Like, try to stay cool, walk slow, just try not to sweat. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's what Bobby says that too. He's like, if you sweat, it's game over. If you get sweaty, and which we'll get into that in a minute. But that's his big thing is that's the kiss of death. When he can feel that sweat starting to drip down his back, he's in trouble. But we'll get into that in a minute. And it's almost impossible to be a quote unquote mobile hunter and carry I don't care if it's 20 degrees out. If you're walking in and you're going half a mile and you're carrying a stand and a backpack and all your gear, and you're hooking up to a tree and climbing up and hanging a stand, you're gonna get sweaty, or it's gonna take you 6 hours to do it. Where you're taking one step and resting, one step and resting. But we'll get into the sweaty part here in a minute. I didn't mean to derail us. So kind of you're coming back out in the afternoon, back to your truck. And you've got to, like a lot of guys, you've got to go do a work thing in the middle of the day before you can get back to do your afternoon hunt, or a family thing, or whatever it may be in the middle of the day.
Yep. Yeah, so during the day, I can wear those liners then for a little while. I'll have another clean set ready for the evening hunt. And I always like to shower. I'm always going to do the whole process again where I'm jumping in the shower. Even if it's only a 1 or 2 hour break, I'm showering again. Just kind of cleaning the whole body off and then going through that same process again for the evening hunt. So if I have a chance to air out my gear during the day too, even if it's at the lot here where at the Illusion Shop, I can hang it on my truck windows and up on the topper, and I'm like Osseo gears all over my truck, and I'm hoping somebody doesn't drive by and steal it all. But I'm just trying to get that, again, natural air kind of flowing back through the gear. And then if I can go take a quick shower, that's the ideal situation.
Yep. Yeah, and then repeat the process in the evening, and then you get done with your evening hunt. You come in. What are your outer layers? When you get back, are you airing those back out? Are you going to wash them? Are you going to put them in an ozone machine? What's your thinking there when you get home after that evening hunt? Walk us through that process.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the weather. We can't let it get all soaked in rain if it's going to be wet out at night, or if it's going to be real dewy. That's a bad situation to wake up to wet clothes the next morning. But trying to get them out on the line again right away. So walking behind the house, hanging them up on the line. Don't live in an area where there's a lot of contamination from neighbor barbecuing too often or whatnot. So pretty clean environment. Hanging out the gear again to start the whole process again the next morning. If it gets really sweaty, which again, we're coming back to that sweat bacterial odor, I do feel like you got to wash it or you got to crush it with ozone. You got to kill that bacteria because, again, that's just the worst scent in my opinion. It's the danger factor. It's the red flag. It's the danger. You have to get that out of that outer gear. So if I feel really good about not sweating the previous hunt, I don't have to do that for that outer layer because I got a couple layers buffer on my skin before it actually comes in contact with that outer layer. But if if I'm breaking a big sweat, I gotta figure out a strategy to combat that. So
yep,
a little bit of variety depending on the situation there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And let's talk about let's dive on into the sweating factor and what you think or what you do in that case, because South Carolina, August 15th, we open. And it doesn't matter. You could go out there naked and you're going to sweat. It's upper 90s, 80% humidity sometimes, and you're just sitting there, you're sweating. Is there, and we kill deer like that. I get super high then. I'm normally 5 sticks high, and the thermals are normally in the evenings. Even when it starts to get dark, it really doesn't start to cool down. So I don't get that thermal drop. The buck I shot last year ended up coming in completely downwind, or there was no wind, and it was right at dark, and he walked under my tree before I shot him, and there was no thermal drop at all, or obviously he'd have smelled me. But that was a day when it was super, super hot, and I had been sweating. And a lot of times, when you sweat, it's game over. So is there anything, you are a mobile guy, right? You're going into the stand, you got to pack into public ground, you got to hang your stand, and you're going to be sweating. What would be your recommendation to guys that are gonna do that? Should they take 2 changes of clothes and have like a big Ziploc bag to put the real sweaty stuff in when they get there? Should they just take the foam and really strip down basically and foam up or lotion up? What would be your recommendation there?
Yeah, I do like the idea of having that extra set of gear, maybe in a Ziploc bag. It's that real thin, light, early season stuff, so it can pack really simply into the pack. So I do like that idea. We are taking the field foam product we have. It's basically like a shower or bath out there in the field. So I'm doing that regardless if it's hot or even in the winter. I'm doing that as the first step once I get into my tree. But yeah, it's definitely, we've had some hunts where, believe it or not, it gets pretty warm up here in Minnesota.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it's the coldest place on earth.
The humidity is bad up here, and I'm sure it is down there too. But the more humid it is, the more they pick you up too. So the toughest days are those super hot days when it's really humid, early season typically, and then during the rut, when it dries up and the leaves are crunching and there's not as much moisture in the air, sometimes you can get away with murder.
Sure.
I guess literally in this sense, we're killing deer downwind, which is wild. But yeah, early season, a lot of guys sweat more than I do as well. There's different levels of just people's makeup. So I know guys that are just drenched and super wet. I don't sweat quite as much, so I'm fortunate there. But taking that, basically a bath up in the tree, changing your layers and wearing as light a layer as possible. I don't know if you hunt every day, just based on you got to kill that buck, or if you could pick a day where there's a little bit more breeze, I think that would obviously help cool you down, keep your scent moving off into an area you want it to be. But that's just more of a situation where if you can pick your days to hunt or not. I do like a little bit more wind. At least I hate calm days because you just never know what's going on with your scent and with your wind thermals. But if you can just get a little bit of breeze, that really helps cool you down. If you're not sitting in the sun too, there's so many factors. If you're in the shade, cool breeze, you can stay cool. But if you're sitting in the sun, you don't have your sunscreen on, getting sunburned, sweating.
Yeah, it's tough.
Mosquitoes are out.
Yep.
Oh, it could be a rough early season, but there's definitely ways like we just talked about that you can combat it to some extent.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this Monday as well. The deer has to make a decision, right? When he hits odor, regardless if it's mountain lion, coyote, human, whatever it is, he has to make a decision. Or all animals that survive, with their nose, they have to make a decision. Even predators. Do I want to follow this trail up? Is it old? And that's the thing that I keep going back to in my head, because, over the 30, however many plus years of hunting these crazy deer, I've gone back and forth. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to shower. And, as I've gotten, I guess, the last 5 years, really, really trying to improve and get better every year, more and more and more into the full-on scent control system, because I always go back to that. That deer has to make a decision on what it's going to do. And what I mean by that is a buck crosses a 3-day-old human trail. He's probably going to be okay with that, right? He's going to, that's old. That's old scent. I'm going to keep going on the way I'm going. He crosses a 30-minute-old trail. He's probably going to freak out and get out of there, or closer than 30 minutes, 10 minutes old. That's going to freak him out, and he's gone. So your ability to disguise your odor and make him, quote unquote, think that it's older than it is, or it's not as fresh, seems like a real good way to look at it. And I also go back to how can it possibly hurt me? Now, the scent sprays, like we talked about, and that's an education point that I've gotten from you in the last couple of days, that can actually hurt you, making everything wet and spraying down with something that has a chemical smell on it. And I saw it with that doe example I gave earlier. But the other part of it, the shower, the lotion, the feel foam, treating the clothing, leaving the clothing out, all those are little things that can diminish your odor, if you will. And I feel like guys, myself included, should be doing that effort. And I think you can attest to what you have seen, having tried all this stuff before you guys launched your system, that it actually does work.
Yeah, well, you just think about how much work it takes to actually go into a full scent control system, and how many guys really want to go all the way in, because I don't think you experience the best results until you're all in, right? So if you go half in but you have bad breath, or your boots smell, or there's so many different things, it kind of ruins the whole program. So I feel like you almost have to dive all the way in to be able to experience the best result, which is kind of strange. It's a strange concept. But as far as just deer and how they pick up scent and how long it's been there, or how much scent they pick up, I think every little bit helps. If you look at it like, if I didn't ever shower and I was full, no deodorant, bad body odor, I'm 100%, we'll look at that as 100% odor going into an area, and a deer could pick you out 500 yards away instantly. I don't know if those are accurate.
No, I get it.
Your thing, but or if you go down to 0%, which is not possible in my opinion. You can't be 0% scent free. You can be very close. But now, when's that deer going to pick you out? Is it 20 yards when he's standing there for 2 minutes? What does that look like? But it's a lot better than 500 yards in an instant. So I've had situations where I've had bucks come in, 4-year-old mature bucks, walk directly downwind. I have it on camera, 5 yards, and they pick me up. I believe deer are going to pick you up if they want to pick you up. They will find you if they want to find you. It'll just take time. I've had, this buck I'm thinking about, I can visualize it, and I got footage of it. Walks downwind 5 yards. You could tell where my wind's blowing right at him. Thermals are pushing down right at him. And he picks me up, but he didn't run. He didn't turn just, 180 and run out of there. He just kind of sat there and didn't look up right away. Then he started to look up at me, and he started putting his nose up, and I'm like direct line of sight. I'm 20 feet up in the tree, but he's like right there, and I'm throwing wind floaters at him, and it's on camera. They're just floating next to him, and he doesn't run away. If I smelled extremely bad and smelled like a human and had all this bad stuff going on, I don't think that type of situation happens.
Yep.
So it's not that he didn't smell me. He smelled me. He eventually left, but it wasn't turn. I could have shot him.
Yeah.
So there's a difference right there in a potential if I could have shot that deer or had no chance of shooting that deer.
Yeah, so it goes back to the old thing. It takes effort to do it right, and just like shooting your bow or dialing your other gear in. You're all in on your bow and getting accurate and lethal with your bow. Same thing with your scent control. It's your whole hunting system, and the more you improve and the more you can do, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was trying to think of an analogy. It's not, you can't just go out there if you're trying to sight in your bow for the hunting for the entire year. You don't just take it out of the case, put up a paper plate at 10 yards, you hit it once and you're good for the year. Like that's not what scent control is. You don't go out there and just spray and you're good and that's it. Like that's not going to give you the best result. Yeah, you might be able to shoot a deer with that bow or kill a deer without great scent control, but if you're looking at consistency over a long stretch of time, I think you just have to go all in.
Yeah.
So,
what about cover scents? Skunk oil? You ever mess with any of that?
I don't. I'm intrigued after talking to you a little bit about what you were discussing with Bobby on that, but I have not. I try to be just invisible out there and not. If I can hunt a deer and never have him know that I'm hunting him, because that could be multiple years in a row. I'd rather have that than something strange kind of being a factor. So don't do a lot of cover scents. I do use scents, create mock scrapes and all that kind of stuff. But I try not to have a cover scent where it's by my tree or it's going to be on my trail, on my boots, especially when I'm trying to keep everything so clean. I just don't want to contaminate that. Even if it works phenomenal, I just don't know. I can't speak to that. My concept is just try to be invisible out there and not add extra elements.
Yeah, I mean, we taught some courses out at Bobby's home farm this year and went to a couple of his stands that he left up for the class to see, and he literally had those scent dispensing wick things that you screw in and screw out, like one halfway up his ladder and then one at the base of his stand. It was hooked to the base of his stand, and he is a big believer in the skunk oil. Now he's a shower guy and wants to stay as scent free as possible, but he swears up and especially he's big into the Elimatrax, putting those on your feet. That he hates the rubber boots and when he's got to walk in certain ways, and he'll put a little skunk oil on his feet, and he swears up and down that stuff works. And I may try it. I mean, we don't have skunks here, so it's a little bit weird for me, and I think it would be a little bit weird for the animals. But I'm going to try it just to see how it works. But I can't get my brain past they're going to smell the skunk and they're going to smell the person, right? They can smell, I don't know what it is. There's some number out there, 100 different odors at one time. I'm sure that's not right. I'm sure it's 10 or 15, whatever it is. But to me, it's just they're going to smell the skunk, but then they're also going to smell you. So I can't wrap my brain around that actually working. But, man, guy that's been doing it as long as Bobby has and has been as successful as he has, you got to take note.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because the skunk, they use some gland secretions or something from skunk to actually make perfume. So it's that potent to where they're using it on, common perfumes and scents and stuff like that. So I could see it being so strong that it almost masks or just completely covers everything else because it's just so potent. So I could see in that work. And my biggest concern would be what happens to that scent when it's on your boot in 7 days. Or in 14 days or in 21 days. So I like the concept of the covering, and I'm sure that really works well. My only concern would be like it's stuck on my stuff. How do I get it off my stuff? So maybe you're dragging it. Maybe it's just a separate drag instead of physically putting it on your boot. I could see that working out pretty well.
Yeah. All right, let's talk ozone one more time. I'm looking at my notes here too. Have you ever done the ozone machines in the tree? Taking those with you?
I have not. The only reason why is because we're trying to prove our own product. So if it's like we're trying to prove and test our own product, if you're trying to use something else, then that kind of affects the results. that you're trying to analyze.
Yeah, you're testing your specific thing. Yep.
Yeah. So try not to contaminate the results with a different technology is the only reason I've not used it in the tree. So I can't speak to experience in the tree. I do use it again on my gear when I need to. I've had situations where I'm up at the family's Wisconsin place and their washer and dryer is filled with all kinds of different scents, so I can't use it, but I sweat in my gear. Now what do? Okay, ozone, crush my gear in my bin. So I use it to do that, but no, I don't have any experience with it in the tree just because of what we're doing with filming and testing and always creating new products and trying new things. We just don't want that external factor affecting what we're trying to learn. So
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Just curious because I try and ask everybody when we're talking about scents if they use ozone or not. Adam Hayes, huge ozonics guy. He loves it. I think he maybe runs 2 in the tree with him and really, really swears by it. Other guys, they're like, no, I've, done it tried it a million different times and it hadn't worked for me. So just curious but you don't have any data there to share, so no big deal. But moving on, what's next for Phase? What you guys got some stuff coming? I mean, let's walk through the product line, and again, not a sales pitch, but you've got the detergent, you've got the foam, you've got the lotion, you've got there are some scent-free boot inserts that I think you guys have, and what else, JJ? I know you've got the wind floaters.
Yeah. So that's interesting, and I didn't bring up the boot thing because we actually don't. We have some in stock, but we're not continuing the product just because of supply reasons. But it's a really good product. I actually keep it in my boots. It's called the H2 odor sponge, so it pulls out moisture, pulls out odor. It's like a bean bag. It's in my boots, and I forgot to mention that it's in my boots the entire year, off season, during peak season. So when I go hunting, I pull them out of my boots. When I get back to the truck, I put them back in my boots.
Gotcha.
Sucks that moisture out, so it keeps my boots dry and clean. They never smell. Also in my bow case, prevent rust if there's moisture in there. In my gear bags, in my bins, they all have these odor sponges in them. It's a great product. Just right now, it's been tough on the source, more of the business side, sourcing to get that product delivered. So, but the Phase system again is all about the body odor for the most part. Outside of the odor sponge, laundry detergent, that's a gear product. But it's a 3-phase system. So body is number 1. That's your shampoos, which have extra conditioners in their shampoo conditioner. The body wash, the lotion, the field foam is actually our field product. So that's basically a little bottle. You get to the field, it's just a foam rig. We don't want too much moisture again out in the field. So we're trying to dry ourselves pretty quick. So it's just foams up, take a little bath, dries quick, encapsulates the odor, controls the dander. That's the field foam. And it's a pretty simple system. It's just a 5-piece system. Wind floaters is a separate wind checking device. Seedless fiber, think of milkweed, in a little container so you can see your thermals and your wind direction. Thermals is probably the biggest thing with checking your wind. You can always, not always, but if there's some strong wind, you can see where it's going or you can tell which way it's blowing from. But that thermals is where it gets real tricky.
Yep.
When the wind calms down and it starts to pull back the direction you don't want it to come from, back downhill or up during the day from the heat. So that's a pretty cool product too. But yeah, we keep it simple. It's just basically the body products, and controlling the odor of the body for the human standpoint.
What anything new coming? Are you guys testing some stuff? Are you able to talk about anything or?
Well, we've been trying to figure out the field spray thing for quite a few years. Just haven't found the way to do it with a technology that can actually remove odor that the deer don't smell.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if it was completely scent-free, just was like water, just spray water on, let it dry. Again, when I use sprays, because I do believe there are a couple good ones out on the market, I'm spraying my gear when it's hanging outside. I'm not doing it right before I head to the tree. So personal preference, that's just what I do.
Yep.
So try to remove the moisture element. Plus, you don't want to get your gear wet either. You don't want to spray it up on the line and then put it in a bin and seal it. You don't want to seal that moisture in there. So you really want to just let that stuff dry out, air out.
Yep.
wipes could be a potential product that'd be coming out soon. And then, we have been working on the gum, but that has not came to fruition. That's a pretty interesting one, but for the most part, that's the line.
Nice. Well, man, we're closing in on an hour here. I appreciate it. It's been very, very, very helpful. Opened my eyes quite a bit, and I know our listeners are very appreciative. Anybody that maybe has been living under a rock and doesn't know how to find you guys, why don't you drop best way for guys to contact y'all about some product maybe, or just follow along with the Deer Society, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so illusionsystems.com is the website for all of the products. You can check them all out. You can contact us on that page through social media, Facebook, Instagram, Deer Society as well. We have a big YouTube channel. You can comment there. Social media, again, Instagram. We got a big TikTok following. Not personally my thing, and I don't know if Joe, if you're a big TikToker, but
yeah, I've got my TikTok dance down pat, man. It's grade A.
Yeah, so you can find us in most places if you just search Illusion or Deer Society and reach out. We're always answering questions. It'd be myself or potentially Brian Clary that pretty much handles most of the customer service or just general questions people have about strategies and tactics and whatever.
Good, guys. Yeah, I'd take advantage of that. A lot of good intel on that Deer Society, especially those hunt breakdowns. Lots of different ones from different parts of the country, different scenarios. It can. You got a problem buck, man. Watch those hunt breakdowns, and you may be able to pick up some tactics there that can help you seal a deal on one you having trouble with. And it's always good just to see how other guys are getting it done. And on those hunt breakdowns, I feel like y'all do as good a job as anybody putting those together and showing the real side of it, not a whole bunch of cutaways and fake stuff that didn't happen, but actually how the hunt broke down. And, you mentioned Ben Rising earlier. He's got a bunch of really good ones on there. He's a big buck killing machine, incredible whitetail hunter, great woodsman. So he's on there, and, you've got a bunch of the other guys. And so, yeah, I can't tout it enough. So, JJ, thank you again, man, for putting all this together, and congratulations again on the business side of things.
Yeah, and there's 200 or 300 breakdowns with you this year, so
Yeah.
look forward to that, and hopefully we can, you'll be able to share those with your followers. We'll push them out to our followers too. So yeah, thanks for being a part of it too. We really appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm gonna hit the stop record button now, and guys, yeah, as always, any questions, reach out. Joe at Osseo Gear, and we'll do another one here in a couple weeks. Thanks, guys.